Should Christian entrepreneurs be using AI? This week over on the TSA Weekly podcast, I was talking about a specific quote that is attributed to Sam Altman, who is the creator and CEO of OpenAI or ChatGPT. And it kind of got me thinking. Well, first off, because I hinted over there at some choices that he's in the news for lately that I do not agree with, that I do not think are wise decisions. And I will talk about that a little bit more here in this episode. But it kind of got me thinking down a path of AI in general as a Christian, especially as a Christian business owner. So that's what I thought we would talk about today on Faith in Focus, which is my companion to the TSA Weekly podcast, specifically designed for Christian entrepreneurs. But before we dive into this, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so that you never miss a tutorial or upload. Okay, so let's just really quick, because I don't want to get into you guys know I'm not real big on like talking about current events and stuff on these podcasts, but I couldn't avoid hearing about what Sam Altman just announced about ChatGPT recently. And, I was really disappointed in it. So you guys know I use ChatGPT in my business. I have talked about that in other places before on the podcast and tutorials and whatnot. And so there's no judgment here. Definitely no judgment if you're using AI. This is just something that I've started thinking about. I was already starting to think about a little bit, but for different reasons until I heard about this. And what this is, I'm going to stop dancing around it. About, I guess it was like 90 days ago, they said, on a different podcast, Sam Altman went on the podcast and was touting how proud he was that OpenAI and ChatGPT was staying true to their values and trying to keep AI as something that is most beneficial to most people, I think is how he worded it. And, I didn't hear that at the time, but hearing that now, if I had only heard that, I would have thought, cool. Like that makes me feel better about ChatGPT being a tool that I use and that I'm actually paying for right now because there's a certain aspects of it that I've been using that, prompted me to upgrade it. So I was feeling that would make me feel good about it, I guess, if that was the only thing I heard. And I don't know if the question came from, I think it did originally come from the context of bringing in, let's just say, adult aspects into ChatGPT. That's as far as I'm going to go with that because I don't want the algorithm to hear this podcast saying any other things. But I guess what I found out recently and what I heard he has now announced is that, in fact, that is not true. That must have been their thought or their plan a couple of months ago. But I guess something changed between then and now because he has now announced that, in fact, ChatGPT will be introducing that type of adult content into its model. And supposedly there will be all these guardrails around it as far as proving that this person is an adult, that they are over 18 before they're able to access any of this content. But like we all know that people know how to get around all that stuff. Kids especially are way smarter with technology than anybody seems to give them credit for. So they're going to find ways around it. And because ChatGPT is the AI that most people think of, even though there are so many others, and some of them are starting to become a little bit more well-known. But like ChatGPT is kind of the Kleenex to the facial tissue world, right? We actually call it Kleenex, even though Kleenex is a brand. Kleenex is not what that product is. It is a facial tissue, but we know it as Kleenex, and so everything gets called Kleenex. And in a similar way, ChatGPT kind of became what AI was known, even though it is also a brand. And so because it is so well known, it made me happy when I first heard that he wasn't going to go down that path, that he was going to try to hold to those values. So it makes me even more disappointed to hear that he's not. But like I said, even before I heard that, I was already starting to wonder if using AI in my business was good or bad. I mean, I think in some aspects we're starting to not be able to help it because AI is being built into literally every tool that we work with. And so when it comes to setting up things like automation workflows and things that are back end and kind of the technical stuff, I think maybe that's a little bit different. But I'm thinking more along the lines of using AI to actually help us draft emails or reword things or, things like that. Like putting thoughts on paper that we then, in some fashion, move forward as our thoughts. And I've never done it in that regard. So I've never gone into a tool like ChatGPT and said, here, just write this. And then I just take it, copy, paste it. I've never done that. That's never been something I was interested in. I did a long, long time ago. I did what did I call it? It was like a first look kind of thing at Magic Write, which is the AI tool that's inside of Canva, which is essentially the same thing. And I was very hesitant about that in the first place because a lot of what I talk about are my opinions. So I shouldn't be getting those opinions from a machine. I shouldn't let AI be telling me my opinions. And all the more so when it comes to my faith and not just my opinions, but my beliefs and things like that. And, I feel like I've been okay with the fact that I've been using Chat GPT specifically because of the fact that I almost always, pretty much always, have it take a transcript of one of my episodes or multiple episodes, and I have it take my own words and then just kind of summarize or reword it and whatever to draft an email that I then go in and check and make sure everything makes sense and that it still sounds like me and, all that kind of stuff. Like that's the way that I typically use it, in addition to transcribing my client sessions, which that to me is kind of different because that truly is, I don't know, maybe I'm splitting hairs. I don't know. This is why I kind of wanted to think it out loud and just get my thoughts on video, on paper as it were, and hear what you guys think about this. Like if this is something that you're doing or you're struggling with or you're thinking about, or maybe you weren't thinking about it, but now that I'm saying this, you are. I would just be curious to get a dialogue going on this because this is really something that I'm thinking about because like I said, I use it more like a personal assistant where I still have my own thoughts and I still speak my own thoughts here on the episodes and things like that. And then I just have it use that and summarize it into maybe the video description, or it helps me optimize video titles or things like that. And so is it really the same thing? But then I think about what Sam has just announced that they're going to be doing with ChatGPT, or I guess allowing, and the fact that they're opening it up to that, it makes me feel like, do I want to support that? Definitely, do I want to support that with my money? I think my answer is no there. That one's pretty clear. And so I'm going to definitely downgrade. I don't need the stuff that I was using it for, that I was paying for it for anymore. And so I'm going to downgrade that for sure. But do I even still want to be using it? I mean, I've invested so much time and energy into teaching it my philosophies and how I think so that it can kind of do what I've been saying, save me time by taking my own words and just repurposing them in another fashion. I mean, it typically does a pretty good job. It still sounds pretty much like me. And sometimes I look back at some of my old descriptions and I can't remember, did I write that one or did Chat write that one off of my transcription? So it's doing a pretty good job of staying authentic to what I'm saying. And it definitely saves me time so that I don't have to stop and think about it, reword it and everything. But it kind of comes down to a deeper principle behind all of it, right? Like by using it, I am supporting it. I am sort of condoning what it's all about. And I know there's been controversy around AI for a whole lot of reasons in general, for things like, just the environmental impacts. I know there are a lot of impacts there. I don't know all the details about it, but I know there's a lot in that area of controversy around it. I certainly know that, it is very much of a yes man and an echo chamber. And so unless you specifically tell it not to just always agree with you, it will pretty much agree with you. And so is it even really serving much purpose in the concept of like a brain dump or a brainstorm like I've done in the past and like I've talked about doing in the past? How useful is that if it's too much just affirming what you already thought? You know what I mean? So, there's that aspect of the controversy. And then of course, there's horrible, tragic stories that we hear about people who are using AI in more of a therapeutic way and, sort of as a counselor. And does it sometimes, I'm not saying that that's bad, but like, Does it sometimes lead down a path that that person wouldn't naturally go down on their own? I've heard stories. I don't know how much of any of it is true, but there's all of that aspect already. But then it just takes me down to that whole principle of where we spend our time and money for sure, but where we spend our time is going to have an impact on us. It is going to influence us in some way. And so by using AI in that way, and specifically ChatGPT, but honestly, all of them, am I allowing it to have any kind of influence on me? Are any of the things that I say in my episodes or in my emails or on my posts or any of that, has any of that been influenced by something that it told me that maybe wasn't true? Because let me tell you, I've corrected it many times where I've asked it a Trello question, is it possible to do blah, blah, blah? And it says, oh yeah, you can do X, Y, Z. And I either already know it's wrong, or I go in and start trying to do what it says and it doesn't actually do that. And I go back and say, hey, that's wrong. It actually can't do that. And what does chat say? Oh, you're right. I was wrong about that. So sorry. Well, I mean, then should we be relying on it for anything? Like, it's just, these are all the thoughts swirling in my brain. You can see that this has been bugging me for the last couple of days at least, especially since I heard about this new aspect that they're going to be allowing into GPT. And so, I don't know, like I said, I don't think we can avoid it completely because it's built into so many of the tools that we use, and some of them we don't even know it's there. But when it comes to intentionally going to ChatGPT to help us write a certain thing or brainstorm something, or using it in a way that we could go to another actual human being for and have a real connection and conversation, should we be doing that? As a human, as a business owner, but especially as a Christian, knowing that it's going to start going down this path, knowing how destructive that can be and how destructive so many of the other things that it could possibly lead down really are. Is this something that we should be supporting in any way, or even allowing to have that kind of influence in our minds, in our souls, in our business, all of that? So I don't have a Bible verse for you guys this week, but if a Bible verse comes to mind for you as you're watching this episode, please put it in the comments, because I would love to, and I'm going to do some of my own research here too, of course, but I would love to kind of try to examine this from the lens of what God has to say. Obviously, there's nothing in the Bible about AI. There's nothing specifically going to be talking about technology or any of this stuff because it didn't exist back then. But I'm certain that there are going to be verses that are going to resonate in this. And so if one comes to mind for you, please leave it in the comments. But even if it doesn't, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Is this something that you struggle with at all? Are you even using AI in this kind of way at all? Is this making you, like me, kind of question that, reconsider that? Have you decided, it's all innocuous, it's totally benign, it's safe, just go ahead and do it? I'm just curious to hear what you guys think. So let me know in the comments. I hope that this episode inspired and encouraged you. And if it did, please share it with a fellow Christian business owner who might need the same encouragement. Thanks for being here, and God bless.